Well, hello everyone. I hope you're practicing safe social distancing. Today on Heavenly Backyard Astronomy, I want to talk about a distant planet that's not so distant. That is the planet Venus. It is shining brightly up in the western evening sky. Stay tuned. This is Heavenly Backyard Astronomy. Cheers. Well, you can't be too careful these days. I'm all alone now. Social distancing at its maximum. No one around me except my wife over on the patio and my cat below me. So I can take off some of my protective gear right now. But it's very important to practice safe social distancing, particularly when you're out in public, if you need to go out, particularly to the stores or what have you. But right now I want to talk about Venus and the Celestron 11-inch telescope. The main reason I bought this telescope was for planetary observation, and it's a great telescope for that because it's at f10, and f10 with the 11-inch gives you a focal length of 2,800 millimeters. That's a long focal length, and with that you can really zoom in on the planets, and we're going to try that today with Venus. And I'm also going to try Mercury in the daytime to see if I can get it, because usually Mercury's too low in the east or too low in the west, and I got trees on both sides of me. But for right now, I'm going to set up the telescope for looking at Venus for later on this evening. But first, I have to make a change. I had the Hyperstar on, and that adds a lot of front weight to the telescope. So I had to rebalance the scope. So let's take off the Hyperstar and get ready to put it back into an f10 mode. By the way, with Hyperstar, it's at f1.8, or let's round it off to f2, a very wide field of view. And I had that to try to get Venus with the Pleiades last Friday night. With the 11-inch and the f2, I tell you what, Venus was so bright it was just blinding the telescope. But that's another story. Now there you have the Hyperstar and the camera. This is the Altair 294C ProTech camera, and this has got quite a bit of weight. It feels at least 7 pounds, and that's a lot of front weight on the telescope. Now, since the telescope was balanced with this in the front, I'm taking off the Hyperstar. I'm going to put back in the primary mirror, or the secondary mirror, also in the back I'm going to put back on the camera, but it's still going to be unbalanced. So the first things first, I need to rebalance the telescope. Now that I have the camera attached to the back end of the telescope and the secondary mirror back in place on the front end of the telescope, the balance is definitely going to be strange, to say the least. So let's rebalance the scope. Whoa, it is very, very bottom heavy right now. I wonder why. The declination seems okay. Well, it's a little heavy there too. We'll change that. But first of all, we got to change the position of the scope. I got to push it forward. That's not an easy task. This thing is heavy. Since I'm more than likely to use the dew shield, it's important to balance the scope with the dew shield on. It adds extra weight to the front of the telescope. All right, now let's see if it's balanced. I see now it's top heavy with the dew shield. Not by much. Let's back off just a little bit more. The looks balanced to me in the right ascension. Let's try the declination. These bad boys. Well, looks pretty good in this direction. A little too bottom heavy. All right, we'll just take this one weight and lift it up a little bit. What do you think? Looks good to me. I'll take it. And by the sounds of it, the birds agree as well. Now that I have the big boy balanced, the next step is to, well, let's wait a little bit, I suppose, for the planet Venus to come out. It's, let's see, almost 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and the sky is totally clear. But you know what? Mercury is about right over there. I've seen it in the daytime before with this telescope. Maybe I can find it again. I don't know. It's going to be difficult because I have nothing to focus on, and I just changed the focus on this as well. So I'll give it a shot. See if I can find Mercury and Venus in the daytime, and then we'll take a look at it during the evening hours. All right, I think I found Mercury here. I've been slewing around, and there it is right there. It's very, very faint, but then again, it's 3:15 in the afternoon. Let's see if I can center this a little bit better. See, the reason I can't really get Mercury most of the time is simply because it's low in the horizon, too many trees, both to my east and to my west. So Mercury is a very elusive planet for me to capture. So if I'm going to capture, I'm going to have to try to get it in the daytime. I did get it once. I think it was in January. In the daytime. Let's take a look at that picture. But I'm trying it right now. This is April 6th, and it's now almost 3:20 in the afternoon. So turn off the reticle. There it is right there. See if I can zoom in. It's not going to be worth capturing, but there it is. I'm not even going to try to focus this. But there's Venus, or a Mercury right there. Compared to Venus, it's much dimmer, even though it's almost -1 right now. So it's fairly bright if you have a good morning view of the eastern sky, which I do not. Well, there you go. Anyway, there's Mercury. But the big challenge tonight I want to show you is the planet Venus. So let's go back to Venus and see what. There you can see it's in a crescent phase. It just passed its greatest western elongation, so it just passed half Venus phase. And let's see here. 100% zoom. There you can see it flickering in the atmosphere. The telescope is almost looking straight up right now. But it's bouncing all over the place. That's typical of Venus. Yeah, try to focus on that. Nonetheless, there is Venus right in there. Again, it's see, a little bit after 3:20 in the afternoon. I mean, that's how bright it is. You can see it in the daytime with your telescopes. At night, now it's almost -4.5. It's extremely bright. Now you can see the crescent phase. I can try to do a shot on this. Let's see. I'm going to have to turn the picture off. All right, there's Venus. And I did a little bit better job on focusing it. And right now I'm trying to do a capture of the planet. And you can definitely see it's got the crescent phase now. It's past the half Venus and now waning down to a crescent Venus. And it continues to get very bright in the western evening sky. -4.5 right now. It's extremely bright. All right, I'm going to run this through auto stackered. See what happens. And where is... Now, I tell you what, while we're waiting, how about a little tour of the garden? The heavenly backyard garden is springing to life right now. Let's take a look. Certainly the garden is definitely coming into full swing right now. As I walk away from the telescope 1, that's the Celestron 11-inch, as we walk across the garden, there you can see a lot of the daylilies behind me, and they're getting ready to bloom. As a matter of fact, I have a couple already in bloom. What is this? April 6th. This is telescope number 2. This is the Orion astrograph, the Maksutov Newtonian 190 at f5.8. I'll be using that a little bit later on in the season as I have some targets to get up in the southern sky. That's why I got this telescope right over here. Meanwhile, behind me is the vegetable garden. Let's take a look. The potatoes and the Brussels sprouts are doing just fine. As a matter of fact, take a look at these. These are just going berserk right now, if you want to call it that. As a matter of fact, the potatoes are already starting to bloom, and that's getting a sign that things are maturing, and the little tubers we call potatoes are beginning to form below. It'll be about another month yet before I can start digging these up out of the ground. I got Pontiac Reds and Yukon Golds going in over here. And also the tomatoes and the peppers. I got green peppers, green bell peppers, red bell peppers, and sweet banana peppers going. And then over here, I got more Yukon Gold potatoes and Brussels sprouts. Yes, yes, Brussels sprouts. You probably know by now, I love Brussels sprouts, particularly when they're fresh. Hard to beat fresh. They get a bad rap because they're not fresh a lot of times when you get them, and they have that bitter taste. But when you get them fresh, they're delicious. By the way, the moon will be full tomorrow night. It's a super moon. It's at perigee right now, and it's going to be a very bright, full, and big full moon coming up. Also, the important aspect about this moon, it's the Paschal Moon. This is the moon that dictates the date of Easter. It's the first full moon since the vernal equinox. However, by the church calendar, the vernal equinox is not the moment that the sun crosses the equator. It's actually March 21st. This year, here in the eastern United States, it came on March 19th. But anyway, this is going to be the first Sunday coming up after the full moon, after the vernal equinox. That is Easter Sunday. Well, I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember, please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more events from the heavenly backyard, particularly the heavenly backyard garden, and more importantly, heavenly backyard astronomy. Thanks for watching. Go away, flies.